Okay, well, we're live. Okay, welcome to a special edition of the Tandem with the Random podcast. I am your host, Brian Kelly, and this episode is being recorded as a live Google Plus Hangout on air on Wednesday night, April 3rd, 2013. And I am joined by my friend in technology and the arts webcast slash podcast co-host, John Lemazny. John, how are you doing?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
I am excellent. Thank you. What's going on with you?
I am focusing on consulting right now.
Excellent. And what kind of consulting are you doing?
Well, it's a consulting business that I've had for the last 20 years, really. I would say
John? Hey, John?
it is design and technology support, but
Hey, John? Can you hear me? Okay. I think we lost John. Oh, Adventures in Google Plus Hangouts on air. Let's give this a moment, see if John rejoins us.
hey,
Hey, I don't know what happened, but everything you said basically became like not even Stephen Hawking. It became like unintelligible.
I'll try to take that as a compliment. I like Stephen Hawking.
I mean, it was like so it was so computerized uh, and and it was broken. I couldn't hear a word you said, and then you just froze.
Hmm. Well, I have a
So
consulting.
let's backtrack. I'm going to be doing a lot of editing on this one. But
Apparently,
so John Lemazny, my friend and Technology in the Arts podcast co-host, is joining me tonight as both a co-host for this episode as well as a guest. So John was talking about his consulting business before Google Plus Hangouts decided to piss me off. So John, why don't you go back and tell our listeners and our viewers tonight about your consulting business?
sure. Thank you, Brian. So my consulting business focuses mostly on graphic design, technology support, sometimes hardware support, organizational support, and now a little bit nutrition. So it's a pretty wide range of things, but mostly it's me, and so it's a situation where if somebody needs help and it's something that I have skills in, I offer those skills for consulting and try not to get sued, with things like nutrition, and I'm always very quick to note, I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist. I just happen to have lost a lot of weight and have a good sense of why that happened and how that happened. And same is true for technology. I don't. Most of my degrees are in fine arts as opposed to technology, and so I can usually tell people what the answer is. And but if somebody's asking me to provide a credential in order to prove that I know what the answer is, the only credential I have is the experience.
Excellent. And guess what we just had on this, if you didn't notice?
I did not notice.
When I was trying to get you back, I clicked on your screen, so and then I clicked on mine, and so while you were talking, I had the video on me. So
Great.
that's a good flashback to technology in the arts 2.0. But so you mentioned the nutrition and you mentioned the weight loss. We've talked about this, on our other projects, but for this project, why don't you talk about that a little bit,
Sure.
and the
So,
and the diary of calories.
yeah, so most of the aspects of my consulting have their own sort of home on the web, and I try to do that because the audience that I'm talking to who's interested in fitness and weight loss and nutrition is not necessarily interested in graphic design and vice versa. Um, I love it when that happens, when somebody's interested in the same things I'm interested in. I just don't expect it. And so I developed diaryofcalories.wordpress.com as sort of a clearinghouse for insights that I have had about weight loss, about nutrition, about fitness, about small living. And I try to include things that affect your mental health, meditation, um, trying to be less money focused, less consumerism focused, and fatherhood and other things that I think affect my general health and specific kinds of health. So I've been maintaining since about Christmas of 2012, and have actually lost a few pounds. I'm now around 195, and my goal was 200. I'm 6'2", and I'm happy where I'm at. I'm healthy, happy. BMI even says that I'm in the normal weight range. My body fat content is good. And so now what I'm learning about is the skills of maintenance. And that means, keeping numbers at the same level every day. And the trick to that is finding great foods and finding whole foods and local foods and a lot of other aspects of food that are incredibly important to me that help me to do that, and sharing that information either through graphics or through experiences or through recipes or through photos. And I'm proud to say that I've gotten a lot of great feedback from people saying that they've been inspired by what I've learned, and that they have started that journey too. And the few takeaways that I would give to anybody who's looking down at their stomach and saying, I don't want to be this way anymore, is that it's easier than you think, far easier than you think. The more information you have, the better. I happen to use a couple biometric devices in order to track both my intake and output. And that it has so much to do with your emotional state. If you are the kind of person who, like so many of us, who eat food as a way of soothing yourself, that's the first thing you really need to overcome. And it has everything to do with your success. If you are eating because it makes you feel good, not eating because it sustains you and makes you energetic and lets you be at the right weight, then that's the first thing that you need to take on. You need to find out if you're depressed. You need to find out if you are going through some life crisis that you're not really paying attention to. And focus on that first, because the rest of these things are not going to work especially well if you're sabotaging yourself because you're not paying attention to the scale or your Fitbit or MyFitnessPal or any of these things because you're depressed and you're eating because you're depressed. You have to have sort of a clear mind on what you're trying to do, why it's important, and keep those goals in mind when you are deciding whether to have a donut or whether to have a bagel or whether to have an apple or whether to have some granola. Um, yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been an amazing, life-altering uh, path, and I'm really, really glad that I've taken it, and I'm glad about where I'm at right now.
Excellent. While you're talking, you mentioned sharing that information, and I guess part of the reason we're doing this Google Plus Hangouts on air tonight is because another way you share information is through your series of Hangouts, which I am now a part of. Your Neckbeard Networks, or is it Network? I guess it's Network. But why don't you talk about your series of Google Plus Hangouts that you do?
Sure. So there's a couple reasons that this happened. First and foremost, there was our work together where we had been doing a podcast originally, and then came to an end with that series, and got together again and decided that we were going to start up again. And because technologies had changed so dramatically, I've said this 100 times. 5 years ago, to do a hangout would have required a technologist to be involved and cameras to be purchased and for
Remember setting up the live stream of commencement at Rider University?
Yeah, that was a major hurdle every year. It was, and you had to sit there and babysit it, and you had to set up a streaming server, set up a client for that server, all of which is still being done, but now it's being done in a much more streamlined, one-click fashion, and it's already attached to accounts that you already have, and the networks support that kind of traffic. And if you have a Gmail account, like most people do, you have access to this technology. And the fact that it's so one click, and a second click gets you screen sharing, and a third click gets you titles, as you have up on your screen, that is much different than it once was. It used to be that you had to have some system administration skills, and you had to know what bandwidth was, and you needed to know what PHP was, and you needed to know all these things. So that's all gone away, and I have tried very hard to do the work of evangelizing how great this technology is, and that if you are just an individual who has a small audience of, let's say, 1,000 people or less,
like this,
or 10 people or less, like I often have, Hangouts is the perfect solution. You don't need to invest in something like GoToMeeting or any of those things, but there are reasons for those things still to exist, because if you need higher quality codec, or you need legibility, or you need archiving at a certain bit rate, or other professional needs, you're probably going to be looking to Kaltura or one of these other solutions. But for most of us, that's not the need. For most of us, we just want to be able to video conference very easily. It's an added benefit by far to be able to click a button, as you did, in order to do a live stream broadcast that easily, and to be able to archive it at the same time. Such a beautiful thing.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I don't have many problems with it, and I've done this a lot. There was a time in the beginning where I was doing 3 or 4 a week, and I do not do 3 or 4 a week anymore. As a matter of fact, I typically do 1. But we have covered topics such as customer service. We have covered technology in the arts. We have covered technology and nutrition. We've covered technology and graphic design. We've covered technology and instruction. And what that's allowed me to do is to build essentially a portfolio of conversations about these topics with people, with experts in those areas, or at least very well-informed individuals who I trust. yourself included. And so,
Thank you.
yeah, it's my pleasure, and it's always a pleasure to speak with you because I always learn something when that happens. And it's really nice to have these records of my personal insight and learning on YouTube for everybody to see. And I can always take things down, but I never do. It's always a reasonable discussion, and sometimes there are uncomfortable moments, and sometimes there are technical gaffes. But generally speaking, I don't do a lot of editing, um, and it's usually a one-shot thing. You know, we start up, we broadcast, we record, uh, and we publish. And I just add it to the Neckbeard Network's playlist. That's the entirety of that distribution method, is adding it to a playlist. And if somebody wants to subscribe to that, they can. Um, but the idea that an individual can have their own broadcast network for free would make somebody's head spin 10 years ago.
Hmm.
With off-the-shelf technology, with nothing more than my laptop and an internet connection, which are both ubiquitous. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to use these technologies in order to do what was once a high threshold of entry for essentially television broadcasting.
Right. So, anything else you want to talk about before I go into my section here?
Um, Yeah, I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say thank you to you, and I wanted to say thank you to the other people who I've worked with on Neckbeards, but I also wanted to extend a thank you to all the people who have supported me recently, because I recently had a job change where I left Princeton University and decided to focus squarely on this consulting business, because there were many times when I had an opportunity for consulting offered to me, but had to turn it down because it was too long of an engagement or too large of a project, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to work on something for a month and be able to get my work done at Princeton. So um, it was a tough decision, but what I have found very quickly is that I have a very uh, reliable extended family of support, and that's been gratifying to be able to understand that, learn that, and rely on that network. So thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. And that was, part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on was to talk about your consulting business and do what I can to support it and promote it. So,
I appreciate that.
yeah, no problem. So, usually in a normal podcast episode, I go into my random thoughts, but we've kind of, that horse has left the barn, so to speak. But and it's going to be weird because some things, this podcast, the podcast version of this conversation will go up on Monday, April, was it 8th? April 8th, yes. So some things are going to be happening between now and April 8th. So I'm going to be talking in different tenses at various points of this conversation. But if you are listening to my voice right now and you're listening to the podcast version of this webcast, later on you should be hearing an interview with John Lambert, the general manager of the Princeton Record Exchange in Princeton, New Jersey, as we discussed Record Store Day and what it's done for independent record stores like his and others like it, and what Princeton Record Exchange and its partner, the Princeton Public Library, have planned for this year's event, which falls on Saturday, April 20th. Of course, that interview is scheduled for tomorrow night, so if it doesn't happen for some reason, you're stuck with just me and John. But that's okay, because we have lots of random stuff to talk about, and we've already talked about a lot so far. So,
I just wanted to take a moment to shout out to John Lambert. I wish we had had a chance to talk to him live because he is a dear person and somebody who I respect greatly.
Excellent. And the store is awesome.
Fantastic. As a matter of fact, I have a special meaning for Record Store Day too. It was, I believe, April 14th of last year on a Saturday. And it was during that time that I embraced sobriety. So it'll be my 1 year coming up on the 14th.
Excellent. Very good. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And yeah, that was the They Might Be Giants show at in the plaza there outside the library. So that was for Record Store Day. But I guess you talked about nutrition earlier, and I guess one thing I'd like to talk about. I mentioned on my last podcast that I ran in the Phillies Charities 5K on March 23rd, I believe, and had some questions about my time. My goal was to finish in under 30 minutes, but my chip time, my recorded time, wound up being 31:06. But my Nike Plus app on my iPhone said I had recorded a 5K time of 30 minutes 18 seconds. So there were some discrepancies going on. But anyway, because I feel like that time was controversial, I'll say, I've signed up for the Barnabas Health Lakewood Blue Claws 5K in Lakewood, New Jersey for this Sunday, which, again, if you're listening to the podcast version, will have already passed. But if you're watching this live or on YouTube before Sunday, April 7th, and you find yourself in Northern Ocean County, New Jersey that morning, the 5K takes place at First Energy Park, home of the Lakewood Blue Claws, the Class A affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies, at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So if you're out there and want to stop by and say hello, maybe cheer me on, that's the place to do it.
Go Blue Claws.
Yes, and actually I do get a ticket to the game, but I don't think I'm staying for the game. I would love to, but I just too much stuff going on. So, and this is one of those awkward pauses I have to put in. Okay. Because it's time for my Doctor Who segment. And I know you don't watch Doctor Who, although I know you're not opposed to the idea.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm sure that I would fall in love with it. It is on Netflix up to a certain point, and so I probably will start making that trek sometime.
Oh, and you had to put the word Trek in there, huh?
Is that bad?
Well, there's territorial issues with sci-fi, as you know. So putting, Trek, as in Star Trek, into a Doctor Who conversation
Star Trek
is a little controversial.
Yeah.
But, yes, so since I've been really playing up Doctor Who during the show's 50th anniversary year, I want to mention how great it was to see Doctor Who return on BBC America last weekend, the 7th season, continuing after a break. And I want to say that Jenna Louise Coleman as new companion Clara Oswald, although versions of her character have already appeared twice, is absolutely brilliant. I really can't wait to find out what the mystery is behind the so-called impossible girl. And then there was the big news earlier this week that David Tennant and Billie Piper, who played the 10th Doctor and companion Rose Tyler, respectively, are indeed reprising their roles for the Doctor Who 50th anniversary special that's currently filming and expected to air in November. And there's also going to be a limited 3D theatrical release, and that's including here in the United States, I believe. But that being said, and while it hasn't been confirmed, I'm pretty sure David Tennant will be playing the human clone of the 10th Doctor that was created in the Series 4 finale, I believe, Journey's End. So, and it only makes sense because that version of the Doctor still exists, and was trapped in a parallel universe with Rose. So if they're both back, logic dictates that it would have to be the clone. And I was going to talk about some other things, but it would get really geeky, so I'm going to let that go.
Well, I mean, if they're listening, if your audience is listening to this point, they probably would be interested in the rest.
You know what? You're right. I'm gonna go with it.
You
so,
can always
so
edit
it,
it out later, you know.
yeah. So in a way, it's actually genius if David Tennant is playing the clone, because all the previous multi-doctor anniversary stories, the 3 doctors, the 5 doctors, uh, the official ones anyway, there were the 2 doctors, where it was the 6th doctor and the 2nd doctor, but I don't think that was an anniversary story, though. I think that was just a standalone thing. But in each of those stories, the fact that all the doctors were able to be together in one place was always something that required the intervention of other Time Lords, of the existence. It depended on the existence of other Time Lords on Gallifrey who can control all the different time streams of all the doctors. So in this, except for a brief time where they tried to come back, the Time Lords are gone now. So there would be no logical way to have all the doctors together. And in real terms, in reality, there's only 4 surviving doctors from the classic era: Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and they're just too old to play the Doctor again and have it make sense. So having David Tennant play the clone actually is, really the only realistic way you can pull a multi-Doctor story off, even though he's not technically, he's a clone of the Doctor, but he's not. He doesn't have the Time Lord. He doesn't have 2 hearts. He doesn't have regenerations. He's a human version of the Doctor. He has all his memories and intelligence, but doesn't have the survivability of the Doctor.
I'm surprised from a technical standpoint that the producers of the show don't have some involvement of the older actors, such as having their voice present, and simply don't use animatronics or taking the face from a still from an old version of the show and putting it on a modern actor like they do in so many movies today. You think about what they did with Tron.
Yeah.
It just seems like they could have done it. It might have been too expensive, maybe.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, you're on 11 Doctors now. To put 11 versions of the hero, the protagonist, I mean, to have 11 versions of him, I don't know how you even write that. How do you give them enough to do?
Well, why couldn't it just be a vignette that happens within 30 seconds where each one of them sort of pokes their head out? That would also make it easier from a CGI perspective.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I had a thought and now I lost it. But
I don't even know the biology of it. But like, if like one's head sort of like came to the side dimensionally, and another one's head came to the other side dimensionally, almost like an Indian god or something. I don't know.
Well, there was they did do for Children Need special a few years ago. They did have a short episode, a mini episode where Peter Davison
I've had some of those.
Appeared as the 5th Doctor. The premise was that the 10th Doctor left his shields down after repairing the TARDIS, and the 5th Doctor's TARDIS they crashed and kind of merged together, which was creating a paradox that could take out a country the size of Belgium, I think, or blow a hole in the universe the size of Belgium or something like that. And they actually put a little bit of dialogue that explained why Peter Davison was older and not as fit as he was when he was the Doctor. Uh, it was some kind of like time discrepancy or something that caused that to happen. Basically, the, because it wasn't a controlled reappearance in the time stream, that there was he had aged to what he would have looked like, I guess, if he had progressed in that form. I guess that was what they were trying to. I guess that's the line of dialogue was trying to say, but they did it much better than I just did, and that's the you know beauty of the Doctor Who writers these days. So anyway, the other thing about the special is that film great John Hurt is also going to be in the 50th anniversary special in an unspecified role. But I'm just going to throw out this bit of speculation. I'm going to guess he is either playing another incarnation of the Master, and this is a little bit wilder, but or he might wind up somehow playing the first Doctor, who was originally played by the late William Hartnell, and then in the Five Doctors by the late Richard Hurndall. But those are my theories. So no spoilers, but those are my theories. And I'm sure I'm wrong on both counts, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. So now that I've stated... what was that?
I said nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Exactly. So now that I've stated my share of Doctor Who joy, if you're listening to the podcast version of this program, you'll hear another Doctor Who fan, Sam Tomano of the Pridonians of Princeton, talk about another Doctor Who memory. And that was my brief pause for editing. And for this live webcast, we're just going to move along. So just a reminder to everyone out there that in honor of Doctor Who's 50th anniversary, I'm asking listeners and followers of the podcast to contribute their experiences and memories of the show. Please, if you're listening and you're a fan of Doctor Who, call the podcast comment line at 609-310-1480 and leave a voicemail with your story of Doctor Who fandom. Come on, be a part of the podcast and the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. Tell your story. So, that's really all I have to say tonight. I mean, I guess we could go into some technology in the arts discussion as a preview. We haven't really talked about Google Glass. I know, we've posted, we've each posted stuff about it, but we haven't talked about Google Glass.
Well, I'm really excited about Google Glass. There are many people who are saying that it's DOA before it's even shown up, and I think that those people may feel differently when they have one on their face.
Well, it can't be DOA because there are other companies already working on their own versions of it. So, I mean, obviously there's going to be a market for it. My concern is that it's really creepy.
It's really not.
It is. Did you see the video of the guy? He was out, like, on a date or something, and it was like how it was like a simulation of how Google Glass will go, where he's like watching the game.
That was the original video, and he wasn't on a date. He was learning how to play the ukulele.
No. We're talking about different. This one was like a joke. This one was where he was basically supposed to be with his girlfriend or wife or whatever, and while they were talking, he was like checking sports scores, and then there was like this. Then there was like this twist at the end where she was. I think it was like a first date or something like that, where she turned the tables on him. I wish I don't remember how it went, and I can't remember at 11 o'clock at night, but it was pretty funny.
At any rate, what is your concern about Glass?
Just the fact that everywhere, depending on how much it penetrates into society, I mean, everybody is going to be a camera. I mean, everybody is a camera now, but
Yeah.
it's just going to make it
You know how
very.
many
It's
times,
good.
do you know how many times you were photographed today, Brian?
Yeah, I know, but it's just going to make it a lot less obvious than taking out a phone and taking a picture,
But
where
don't.
somebody with glasses on is going to be video,
But
taking video and taking pictures.
if they wanted to get that of you now, they can do that.
I realize that. It's just a little bit of a.
Here, in my opinion, at least with glass, it's like there's some transparency there. In other words, you're wearing glass, and so therefore there's some. It's like this green light on my camera. I know when the camera's on because that function is built in. But if I had uh, Google Glass on my face, you know that there's a chance that I am computing at that moment, probably with a camera. But if I'm holding my phone, there's no reason why I couldn't be recording you at any moment with that, completely covertly. You know, if I got out my phone right now and started a video, you would not know, except that I have told you that I'm doing this, that I'm doing. I could say, oh, I wanted to check what the score was, but no, I'm recording you.
Well, that would be a lie.
Well, how is Google Glass less or more creepy than that?
No, I'm just saying if you're checking if you
Yeah,
use
it would
checking
not
a
be.
score, if you use checking a score as an excuse, I know that would be a lie.
The whole thing is
First of
ridiculous.
all, I'm surprised you knew that terminology.
Yeah. Uh, but this argument comes up a lot, and my answer is that if you think that Google Glass is what is uh, the advent of the loss of our privacy, you need to go outside and count the cameras pointed at you.
No, I don't see it as a loss of privacy. I know that's already there, and we're already at that point. But I
Okay.
just think it's a creepier way of.
How? Why? Because it's on somebody's face?
Yeah, it's less obvious. It's a little more.
Have you seen the Project Glass?
Yes, but it's going to get
Most
refined.
obvious
It's going to get to
thing.
the point where it's not going to look like any. It's going to look like a normal pair of glasses. You know that's going to happen.
Sort of like a phone looks like a piece of slate.
Yes, exactly.
But you know, I just posted the other day. There's a site that I follow called Instructables, which is sort of related to
Yeah.
the make movement. You know what I'm going to say?
No, no, no. But I know.
The Instructable was how to construct a covert camera pocket where you like sew one of these whatever $15 cameras from Radio Shack into the pocket on the coat and stream the wire down to your wrist and do like a Spider-Man thing so that you can take photos. And my tagline for it was creepy, you know, or creeper. That's creepy. It's like you are trying to be covert in the idea that you are recording somebody or something, uh, either in audio or video, because you are concealing it. In other words, the act of concealing is the issue. With glass, you're wearing this thing on your face, and it's like I can see so uh, clearly that there's going to be a backlash against wearing glass, and then they're going to realize, oh, just because this thing is not on this person's face doesn't mean that I am protected from being recorded. It just means they don't have this thing on their face. And so my argument is, I think that people are looking. This is the same problem I've had with arguments against Pinterest and copyright. Same argument I've had against social media in general, and the belief that somehow social media is the thing that is causing privacy, social identity issues. It's that social privacy and identity issues exist, and social media happens to bring light to it. I have an alarm going off. Let me go turn it off.
Okay. Live webcasting, ladies and gentlemen.
So, yeah, it makes me a little bit angry that people are often short-sighted about the new thing and completely overlooking all the other things that do exactly what it does, just in a different form. Pinterest and copyright is one of those things that there was this big backlash against Pinterest, and they said, "Oh, I'm a photographer, and my photos are being shown on Pinterest. How dare they?" You know, and meanwhile, their photos were being shared on Facebook and being shared by email and being shared by Google Plus and being shared everywhere else. But because Pinterest made it obvious to them that their content was being shared, which is a benefit, it was like, oh, well, how dare you? You know, I never asked for your content to be on my content to be on your network. And the same is true for Glass. You know, if you think you're not being recorded now, you are not paying attention. If you think that somehow you would know if you were being recorded, you're not paying attention. It is strictly because of the backlash that would occur if they did not, that they make cameras at street lights, or I'm sorry, traffic lights so obvious. You know?
Right. I think people would be stunned to know, people who aren't familiar with how things are in Europe. But I mean, in Doctor Who, it's something they use quite a bit. It is the premise that London is full of cameras. I mean, there are cameras everywhere. I mean, in Torchwood, they were always hacking into the CCTV system. In Doctor Who, the episode where the Master had come back and was on Earth as the Prime Minister.
The Killing had every time they went to a new scene, it was like, I need you to pull all those camera tapes. You know, and it's like, oh yeah, there are eyes on this spot and every other spot around us every hour of every day.
I mean, and that was with the East Coast Fireball a couple weeks ago, which I was outside for and missed it somehow, by the way. I was outside looking at the stars. I think I had just taken the trash out because it was a Friday night. And I was looking at the stars, and I thought I saw a meteor at that exact time, but like just a run-of-the-mill streak of light type of thing. And then I come inside, and I see all these reports of a fireball, and yet there was like maybe 2 or 3 surveillance cameras, and they just barely got a glimpse of the fireball. Meanwhile, the fireball over Russia, in February, I mean, within seconds of the first reports, all those dash cams were uploaded on YouTube. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing how...
I'm surprised that dashboard cameras are not far more popular here in America.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you not hear me?
I can hear you, but I just got a pop-up saying that my microphone had been muted either by me or by software.
I don't know. I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Something just popped up. I never saw that before.
But yeah, I think that Glass will probably show up before dashboard cams take off here, because I think anybody who's interested in it knows that Glass is on its way. And
well, the dashboard cams also serve a purpose because it's so corrupt over in Russia. I mean, that's why they have them, because
because it's not corrupt here.
Well, I mean, it's just insurance fraud and corruption on the police force is much worse than what we deal with here.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Wow.
if you have Project Glass on your face, your surveillance or Sue's surveillance does not stop at your car. It goes wherever you go.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, driving with Google Glass. I mean, that's going to be an issue.
Why?
you're going to have this display of information in front of your face while you're driving.
Yeah, it probably has a car mode just like your phone.
Yeah, and we're going to trust people to put it in the car mode because nobody uses car mode for their phones.
I use
Everybody's on
car
their.
mode. I use
You
car mode
do, you
on my.
do, and I use hands free. But I when I'm walking around Trenton every day now, and people are driving around, I see them on their cell phones.
Again, this is exactly what I'm saying. People who are not going to use car mode, who are not going to restrict themselves from texting, who are not going to, it doesn't matter what device they have next to them, they are such they are so um, irrespective of the people around them that they will use the device in the wrong way. Those are, those people are going to do something. It's the same issue with technology in the classrooms. It always drives me crazy when I went to a faculty member and said, we could solve this need if we just had laptops in the classroom. They said, oh, well, we can't do that. And I said, no, we can. We'll bring the laptop. No, 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 no. I don't want students on laptops in my classroom. And I said, every time, I said, why? And they said, because they'll be on Facebook. And I said, well, if they would be on Facebook on the laptop, they're not going to pay more attention just because they don't have a laptop. They're just going to find something else to do during that time. It's like you're blaming the technology for the student being uninterested or for yourself
Disengaged.
not engaging the student. In the same way as a driver who is texting while they're driving, the phone is not to blame. The abilities of the phone are not to blame. The abilities and capabilities of glass would not be to blame. It is strictly the responsibility of the driver to make the right decisions. With you have the ability right now, Brian, to
I understand that. I know it's the responsibility of the driver. But the problem is there are a lot of irresponsible people. Like,
but that's the problem. Not glass, not a phone. It's irresponsible people are at a maximum.
I'm just saying though, at what point does you're going to have irresponsible people using the technology the wrong way, which could lead to people getting injured or killed in certain
I
circumstances.
agree with you, but those people are. I mean, do you propose a law?
I
And
mean, if you're banning, if people they're saying they want to ban cell phone use entirely in cars. I mean,
that is the most ridiculous,
they could
restrictive thing
they,
I've ever heard of.
they could ban all such communication devices.
No, they could not.
They could
I mean,
if they wanted
they,
to.
they could make a law about it, but it would be the most ridiculous. It would be the most broken law ever. It would be more lawbreakers than jaywalkers.
If the NRA can get away with the stuff they're doing, then anything is possible.
So, as an experiment, I want you to go find a pack of matches.
I can't find a pack of
Do
matches.
you have a pack of matches near you, Brian?
No, I do not.
Do you have two stones that you could make a spark with?
No, I do not.
I want you, as soon as you have the opportunity, to go find a pack of matches. I want you to take one match off of the book. I want you to strike it on the back so that the match lights. I want you to light the rest of the matches, and I want you to drop it in the middle of your floor. Okay?
Okay.
And this experiment will show that even though everybody has destructive power in their hands at any given time, not everybody acts on it.
I realize that, and I know that, but there are a lot of people
Who
who
would light
don't.
matches and throw them on the ground. But do we ban matches as a result?
No, and we don't ban cars either. And that's the other thing. It's like when people you bring up the gun thing, it's like, oh well, cars kill people. Why don't we? Because and my response to that is guns are designed to do one thing. Cars are designed to transport us, but you know, you get into accidents, you drive irresponsibly, and you could get, you know, the car can get damaged and do bodily harm to you. But that's the primary object of the car, is not to kill you, whereas a gun, it is. It is that is the it's to.
Well, there are some arguments there, and I'm not a gun advocate, but I
The thing that happens though is that I see the way people drive, especially around here, and it's like,
generalization.
well, this is the whole point about the gun argument. It's like, oh, well, there's responsible gun owners. I'm like, and I'm not saying there's not responsible gun. There's responsible people everywhere, and but the problem is when you have something that could be deadly, it just becomes an issue.
When you could have something that could be deadly, what you have is a match.
Yeah, and what you have is me getting tired, actually.
Well, but my point is that the match argument works in regards to glass. The gun argument does not, because there's no correspondence. You're right. The gun has certain intentions that are not wholly positive.
And before you know, we get any further, I'm not totally against the Second Amendment. I believe people have the right to own guns, but this nonsense that you should be allowed to buy a gun that could stop a small army because it has this huge ammo capacity and can shoot, you know, 5 million rounds a minute is ridiculous. I mean, there's no reason why anybody should have that.
You will not get me on record saying anything in regards to gun law.
Well, you know, I don't know if you saw. I tweeted the other day. You know, with this press conference they had. Well, you can't even call them press conferences because it's ridiculous that the NRA keeps calling these press conferences, and then they impose like all these restrictions against the press. I mean, the last time they had a press conference, they didn't even invite the press there.
I'm gonna pull you back in now.
Well, what I wanted to say though, is there's a reason why they keep getting their way, and that's because they are lunatics with guns.
Okay.
And so who would want to stand up to them? They are whack jobs with guns.
Lunatics with Google Glass, maybe.
I'll take my chances with the Google Glass lunatics.
With matches.
With matches, virtual matches.
I'll never forget it when I was in 7th grade. I was over a friend's house, and his brother.
Actually, if I had Google Glass.
Why are you interrupting me?
Well, hold on. If I had Google Glass and you asked me about the matches, I could have said search matches, and I could have found the matches.
So they would flick these matches off of the book at each other. These two brothers, I'm still friends, would take matches and just flick them at each other. And meanwhile, like, the matches were landing, you know, next to the gasoline can, and those people should not be able to Google Glass and drive. But for the rest of us, I think we should have a choice.
Okay. I agree. I just think
I'm going to use glass in my car. So just, you know, I'll let you know when I'm going to be out in my car, because chances are I'm going to have that thing popped in my eye.
Well, first of all, we shouldn't even need Google Glass for the car.
Why?
Because there should be an interface so that you have a display on your windshield. The whole windshield should be Google Glass.
Okay. Well,
and that way it could limit the area of information so that it doesn't get in the way of.
Does that? It puts it in your vision, just above you. In other words, you have to look into it. When you're looking straight ahead, you don't see the display. It's only when you look up, or when you acknowledge that it exists, or you call it, you say, "Glass," you know, or "Hey, Glass, take a video."
Hey, Glass, take a video of me crashing into this wall.
Why do I have to crash into a wall if it's up here?
I'm kidding.
I have to look up here.
I'm kidding. Ah.
It aggravates me. Aggravates me because just because somebody doesn't know their limitations of uh, concentration with devices, I get pulled over in Plainsboro if I am changing a song on my phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I assume that really happened.
It did. I got pulled over once because, as a matter of fact, it was because I had this. I had this in my mouth. And the guy pulled me over and he said, "What's that?" I said, "It's an electronic cigarette." He said, "Oh, I thought you were texting." I said, "You thought I was texting?" I didn't. I said to myself, "You thought I was texting with my mouth?" You know? Uh, anyway, it just seems like, and the other thing about it is the police officers in this area tend to uh, what do you call it when you're typed?
Profile.
Profile. They tend to profile. And because I'm missing hubcaps on my car, I get pulled over all the time. It hasn't happened in a while. Probably get pulled over tomorrow now. But I was very often profiled, stopped on the street a couple times while I was walking. And it's like any excuse, to intrude on my personal life. It's like another reason. Oh, I thought you were texting. Really? You thought I was texting with this? Whatever.
That really looks like a sonic screwdriver.
Good.
Or some kind of sonic device that's related to a sonic screwdriver.
Something.
I was actually going to do this podcast wearing my Doctor Who scarf with my sonic screwdriver.
Wasn't that only Tom? I want to say Tom Jones. Wasn't that only?
Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor.
Yeah, I always liked that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that scarf for Christmas.
Sweet.
And it's the long one. I mean, it's the BBC, store-bought. I mean, they used to sell, there used to be some people who made, like, really nice, custom ones, but it does the trick. So, all right, well, we've been on for about an hour, so that's probably more than we should have been.
Well, you brought up guns at one point in relationship to a discussion on Google Glass. So
hey, this is tandem with the random.
yeah,
This is tandem with the random. Anything goes. We go for the random.
apparently.
We can talk about anything. It's an open format. You are the open evangelist.
That's true.
You should embrace an open format podcast such as
I
this.
liked it. It was fun. I had a good time as always when I talked to you.
Hopefully, technology in the arts will not sound anything like this. Which we should before we go, we should mention. We should talk about that because we haven't really talked about it. But we do plan on bringing that back at some point. I'm planning on taking this tandem with the random into at least late June. I might go into July a little bit, but I think we started technology in the arts in August, late August, I think.
Yep.
So I mean, we could try to keep to that same time frame, I guess.
Yeah, I like that idea.
So. All right, so that would be good.
Honestly, it would be good if we could start in June, only because of Art All Night. Because of Art All Night.
We could do a special one.
Yeah, maybe as a pre-launch thing.
Yeah, you know what? Bob, it's Father's Day.
That's part of the reason that it's then. It's
Yeah.
actually my birthday. It's
Yeah.
actually my birthday.
Oh, well, the problem is
Summer. It's beautiful. They could not have chosen a better time.
yes, but because it's a Saturday into Sunday, and we're usually doing something. Whether we're getting I don't know what our plans are for this Father's Day, and obviously this will be my first Father's Day as a father, but it's just there's we're always either cleaning or getting something prepared for the next day. And by the time I get to Art All Night, it's like
How is
10
that
o'clock.
Art All Night's problem?
It's not Art All Night's problem, but it's just very inconvenient for me.
Oh, it sounds like it's your problem. It
It
doesn't
is
sound
my
like
problem. That it's my problem with Art All Night. I would love to go to Art All Night. I love Art All Night.
okay.
It's one of my
That's
favorite
that's
events.
better. I agree. Art All Night is by far one of my favorite events.
And I just don't get to spend enough time there. Um,
It's up for 24 hours, yes?
yes,
You
but
have gotten up in the middle of the night to not watch a comet.
no, no. The comet was
Anyway,
it was right after sun. This comet was right after sun. But I have gotten up to watch meteor showers that didn't pan out.
yeah,
I mean, I saw a couple. I I've gone up to watch a rocket launch from Virginia, which
probably
was actually very cool.
you probably went to the theater to see Godzilla 2000.
No, no.
All right, well, we have limits then. But I'm saying it's a 24-hour event. If you can't find an hour in 24 to
I
visit,
I've done that, but I'd like to spend more time there. It's like I'm rushing through it. I'm I want to get home, get some sleep. Because usually, if Allison is doing something, or if she's like making something in the kitchen, or I'm cleaning up the house because we're gonna have company. Have her father over, my father over, whatever. Our parents, and it's just there's a lot of stuff going on that weekend, and it was even worse back when it first started. Not only was it Father's Day, but it was always on the same weekend as the Wave Gathering Music Festival in Asbury Park, and my friend Christian Beach would play that, and he'd always ask me to, we'd always try to get a band show together. So that Saturday night, I was going to Asbury Park, and then I was trying to get a couple hours on Sunday. That was a real mess, but it's just that Father's Day thing just bothers me.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
I mean, I'd love to have Christian play there, but I mean,
That's where he should be. There are so many people who are there at any given time.
right? But I mean, he's the father of twins, and
It's Father's Day. Have them come to the show.
what if he goes on at 3 a.m.?
Then go on at 3 a.m. I think he's going to get some. I think he's going to get some preference because he has a following.
Well, he hasn't done much lately, but
Well, then maybe he can just come.
uh,
I don't know. I just
but anyway, getting back to it. Yes, let's do something for Art All Night, because Art All Night is a brilliant event. No matter my personal issues with the timing, it's fantastic, and we should do something where we can spotlight it, and maybe do some interviews with some of the people involved.
absolutely. And I have some good friends in Art All Night that I think that we would love to talk to.
So yeah, that would be a nice special episode of a heartwarming special episode of technology and the arts.
Fantastic. Well,
Excellent.
thank you so much, Brian.
You're welcome, John, and thank you for joining me on this special live edition of the Tandem with the Random
Very live,
podcast. Yeah, very live and very boring.
except for the part about guns.
Oh,
Clickety.
actually, I that added a little punch to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it did. It did. Oh man.
So, okay, yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to end this now, but thank you very much.
Thank you too. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Don, and thank you for anybody who is watching this disaster, which started out with me talking to nobody for about 10 minutes when your camera went kaplooey. I don't know what
I'm
happened
sure
there.
it was my camera. I'm sure.
Well, you disappeared. I don't know what happened, but you disappeared.
Uh,
So,
I don't know.
okay, this has been
Maybe,
Tandem with the Random Live with
maybe,
John Lemasney, my
maybe
special
Google
guest.
saw that you were going to be talking about glass in negative ways, and they said, "You can't talk about glass negatively and use our network for free." Click.
Yeah. Uh, they must have saw that in my Google Docs, in my document on Google Drive.
You're worried about cameras. You should
So,
be worried about Google.
well, I am worried about Google. You're the one who thinks, "Oh, Google's great. Google's great."
I know Google is great.
Yeah, you bow down to the god of Google.
I do.
The
Hap-
what? What was that?
I said happily.
No. Okay, John.
All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.